with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare, the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Well, that debate sparking panic among Joe Biden's inner circle, according to his former chief of staff, Jeff Zients. Zients told the House Oversight Committee that he wanted Biden to take a cognitive test after that debate. That's according to a source familiar with his deposition on Capitol Hill this week. And that statement is now a stark contrast from the defense that was run by the left-wing media at the time.
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
Biden is just a couple of years older than Donald Trump, and Biden is actually in good shape.
Any aide who engages with him or reporters, we can see this. The gears of his mind are working.
Let's bring in Chris Whipple, author of Uncharted. I want to play one more soundbite for you, Chris. This is from Chairman James Comer about that big headline from this testimony this week. Listen.
He admitted that, the debate was a disaster. He said that he thought the president should have had a cognitive test after the debate. But, we had other staffers that came in during the depositions and said that no one talked about that. So there's so many conflicting stories.
This is big. I mean, he's the chief of staff, and he's telling the president and everybody around him, you got to have a cognitive test. Why didn't that happen?
Yeah, it's no surprise to me that Jeff Zients testified voluntarily because as far as I know, he has nothing to hide, and he was obviously in a perfect position to know what Joe Biden's condition was. He was very clear-eyed after the debate about Biden's condition, and he knew that there was just no way that Biden should be running for re-election. That was in stark contrast to some of Biden's inner circle, including Mike Donilon and Steve Ricchetti, who were, as I wrote in my book, they were lost in this kind of fog of denial and delusion. Even after the debate, they somehow convinced themselves that Biden had won it. I mean, it was unbelievable. But Zients was clear-eyed about it, and that was why he called for a cognitive test after the fact. I mean, they had to do something at that point, and Zients and others knew that there was just no way Biden could win re-election.
But it really wasn't just after the debate, right, Chris? I mean, there's testimony here, and not just from Zients, from other people too, that they were noticing that the former president was diminishing in some ways. He was tired. He was more and more tired. Dr. Jill Biden was asking for more executive time to let him, relax with his family or by himself. We're getting this new excerpt from Kamala Harris in her new book about how Joe Biden was acting with her right before her own debate with candidate Trump. And now there's Democrats coming out after her and throwing her under the bus because they think that she knew more. Listen.
I haven't read the former vice president's book, and she's going to have to answer to how she was in the room and yet never said anything publicly. I was very vocal with him privately and extremely vocal with his staff about my concerns about his fitness to be able to run for another term.
I mean, this is the governor of Pennsylvania. He's not spending a whole lot of time with the former president, but even he saw things that didn't make him feel confident in another term. How do we not believe that this was a cover-up?
Well, look, all of these questions are fair game for Kamala Harris, and she should be asked them when she's on this book tour, which I guess starts on Monday. So, that'll be fascinating to hear. Look, I think it's one thing to say that Joe Biden was in no condition to run for re-election at the age of 82. That was and is a scandal for the Democratic Party, no question about it. It's another thing to prove that Joe Biden was incompetent or unable to make decisions behind closed doors. There's no question that people began to notice in November of 2023 that he was slowing down, that he was sometimes confused, But it's a leap from there to the notion that he was Woodrow Wilson, that he was non-compos mentis, that there was a cabal running the White House with an auto pen. I just haven't seen compelling evidence of that. And in fact, there's plenty of evidence that Biden was making decisions behind closed doors. What he couldn't do was run effectively for re-election.
Well, the other nugget that came out that was super interesting was that Zients told the committee that Hunter Biden was a big part of that decision-making process to basically pardon the entire family. He was in the room and he was there with his father, helping him make that decision. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Great to be with you. Thanks.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.